Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. The universe called it impossible, humanity built it anyway. The massive hall of the Galactic Council fell silent as Commander Jack Thompson stepped forward. His blue uniform, adorned with the simple Earth insignia, looked plain next to the elaborate dress of the alien representatives. Behind him walked Engineer Anna Willis, her red hair tied back tightly, eyes darting around the chamber to take in the incredible architecture that stretched hundreds of meters above them. "The humans wish to address the council," announced the speaker, a tall being with silvery skin that rippled like water. Jack cleared his throat. This was humanity's first appearance before the full council since Earth had joined the galactic community 30 years ago. Most species waited centuries before requesting such an audience. "Honorable members of the council," Jack began, his voice steady despite his racing heart, "we come to offer help with the Void Gate crisis." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some representatives leaned forward with interest while others made gestures that Jack recognized as their species' equivalent of dismissive laughter. The speaker raised a hand for silence. "Commander Thompson, the collapse of the Void Gate system is indeed a tragedy. 23 civilizations remain cut off from the galactic community. But what could Earth possibly offer in this matter?" Anna stepped forward. Unlike Jack, who had trained for diplomatic missions his entire career, she felt uncomfortable in the spotlight. But when it came to engineering, her confidence was unshakable. "We've studied the fragments of the ancient builders' technology," she said. "We believe we can rebuild the Void Gate." This time the chamber erupted. Representatives from 100 worlds spoke at once in dozens of languages. The translation devices in Jack's and Anna's ears struggled to keep up with the overlapping voices. "Impossible. The humans are barely space-capable. Even the Mithrani couldn't restore it, and they've had space flight for 50,000 years. The speaker called for order, striking a crystal rod against a metal plate. The sound resonated through the hall, and gradually silence returned. Ambassador Dorn of the Stellar Imperium rose from his seat. His people, the Varl, were known for their advanced technology in their equally advanced sense of superiority. Dorn's skin had the blue-gray coloring of all Varl, but the elaborate patterns painted on his face marked him as a high-ranking official. "With all respect to our human friends," Dorn said, his voice smooth but carrying an edge, "this is absurd. Your species barely left your solar system a century ago. The Void Gate requires understanding physics your scientists haven't even theorized. The ancient builders had technology we still don't comprehend after studying it for millennia." Jack kept his face neutral despite the insult. "We're aware of the challenge. Are you?" Dorn's mouth stretched into what passed for a smile among the Varl. "The last team that attempted repairs lost an entire moon when their calculations failed." "A moon, Commander. 16 million dead. The Void Gate isn't some primitive fusion reactor. It bends the fabric of spacetime itself." Anna stepped forward again. "We've developed new approaches based on—" Dorn interrupted, "Your species still uses combustion for planetary transport. You haven't even mastered gravity manipulation for your cities. How could you possibly understand technology that predates your entire civilization by millions of years?" The council chamber grew tense. Jack noticed some representatives nodding in agreement with Dorn while others watched with curious expressions. "Perhaps we should hear them out," suggested another representative, a small furry being from a world called Trell. "Humans have shown remarkable adaptability in the short time we've known them." Dorn made a dismissive gesture. "Adaptability won't rebuild the Void Gate. This requires the finest scientific minds in the galaxy, not enthusiastic amateurs." Jack felt his patience wearing thin. He hadn't expected an easy reception, but the outright dismissal stung. "The Stellar Imperium has had 70 years to solve this problem," Jack said calmly. "How much progress have you made, Ambassador?" Dorn's face darkened to a deeper blue. "We've made significant theoretical advances, But no practical ones, Jack finished for him. Meanwhile, 23 civilizations remain isolated, some facing resource shortages that will soon become critical. The speaker intervened. "What exactly are you proposing, Commander Thompson?" Anna pulled a small device from her pocket and activated it. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing a modified design of the Void Gate. "Our approach differs from previous attempts," she explained. "Instead of trying to recreate the original technology exactly, we've developed a hybrid system that combines what we know of the ancient methods with new principles." She manipulated the display, showing different components and energy flows. Jack noticed that even Dorn was watching with reluctant interest. "This isn't just human arrogance speaking," Anna continued. "We've already successfully tested a small-scale version that created a stable microportal for 3 minutes and 42 seconds. This revelation caused another stir in the chamber. A microportal was still far from a full void gate, but it was more than anyone had achieved since the collapse." The speaker looked thoughtful. "And you have documentation of this test?" "Full records," Jack confirmed, verified by independent observers from the Trell Science Academy. The representative from Trell nodded confirmation, causing Dorn's expression to sour further. "Even if your test was successful," Dorn said, "scaling up from a microportal to a full void gate is not simply a matter of building it larger. The energy requirements alone would drain your planet's resources." "We've accounted for that," Anna replied. "Our design uses significantly less energy than the original void gate. It's less powerful but more stable." For the next hour, Anna answered increasingly technical questions from the council. Jack watched with pride as she handled each one with confidence. Her simple, direct explanations seemed to impress many of the representatives, even those initially skeptical. Finally, the speaker called for a brief recess to consider the human proposal. As the representatives filed out of the chamber, Dorn approached Jack and Anna. "An interesting performance," he said quietly. "But when your project fails, and it will fail, remember that you were warned. Some technologies are beyond certain species. Know your place in the galaxy, humans." Jack met his gaze steadily. "Our place is wherever we decide to make it, Ambassador." Dorn's expression hardened. "We shall see." When the council reconvened, the speaker announced their decision. The council grants provisional approval for the Human Void Gate project. You will receive limited access to the ancient builder's archives and permission to work at the collapsed gate site. However, the speaker added, the council accepts no responsibility for any consequences of your attempt. Jack bowed slightly. "We understand. Thank you for your trust." "Not trust," corrected the speaker. "Necessity. If there is even a small chance you might succeed where others have failed, we must allow the attempt." As they left the chamber, Anna whispered to Jack, "Did we just commit to something impossible?" Jack watched as Dorn and several other representatives huddled together, casting glances in their direction. "Probably," he admitted. "But if humans waited for guarantees of success, we'd never have left Earth in the first place." Anna nodded, her mind already racing with calculations and plans. "I'll need to contact Earth immediately. We need to assemble the best team possible." "Already arranged," Jack said. "The ship leaves in 3 days." As they walked toward the exit, the enormity of their task settled over them. They had just committed humanity to the greatest engineering challenge in galactic history, with countless lives depending on their success, and most of the galaxy was betting on their failure. 3 months after their appearance before the Galactic Council, Anna Willis floated in the observation dome of Frontier Station, watching as another supply ship docked. The massive space station orbited the dead star where the original Void Gate had once stood. Now only broken pieces of the ancient structure remained, scattered across space like a giant puzzle. "Shipment from Earth," said a voice behind her. "More equipment for Lab 7. Anna turned to see Jack Thompson pushing himself through the zero-gravity environment with practiced ease. Unlike the early days when he bumped into walls and equipment, he now moved like someone born in space. Did they send the special alloys we asked for? Anna asked. Jack nodded. And something else. 20 new engineers and scientists, including Professor Tom Reed. Anna's eyes widened. Tom Reed? The physicist? I thought he refused to join. He changed his mind, Jack grinned. Apparently he said he couldn't miss the greatest engineering disaster or miracle of the century. His words, not mine. Anna laughed. Tom Reed was famous on Earth for his wild theories about space and time. Most scientists thought his ideas were crazy, but Anna had studied his work secretly. His papers on dimensional folding had given her the first idea for their void gate approach. When does he arrive? He's on the ship now, along with our latest observer from the Stellar Imperium. Anna's smile faded. Another spy from Dorn? Of course. This one's called Felix. Supposed to be a technical advisor, just wants to watch us fail up close. The station had become home to over 300 humans and 50 aliens from various worlds. Some came to help, offering knowledge or skills. Others, like Dorn's people, came to watch and report back on the humans' progress, or lack of it. In Lab 3, Anna found Professor Reed already at work. He was older than she expected, with white hair that floated around his head in the low gravity. His clothes looked rumpled, as if he'd slept in them, which he probably had. Engineer Willis, Reed called out when he saw her. Finally. Come look at this nonsense your team has created. Anna approached cautiously. Reed had a reputation for being brilliant but difficult. Is there a problem, Professor? Problem? Yes, a dozen of them. Reed pointed at the complex diagrams on the screens around him. Your approach to the quantum field generator is all wrong. You're trying to force stability using brute computational power. Anna felt her face grow warm. We've made progress. Progress toward failure. Reed pulled up new diagrams. The ancient builders didn't think like this. They didn't force technology to work. They found the natural flows of the universe and guided them. With respect, Professor, we don't have their knowledge. Reed snorted. No, but we have our own knowledge. He pointed to his head. Humans think differently. That's our advantage. As annoying as he was, Anna couldn't help but be fascinated. For the next hour, Reed explained his theories, drawing diagrams in the air with his hands and occasionally cursing when words failed him. So you're saying we need to make the void gate partially organic? Anna asked finally. Not organic exactly. Responsive. Alive in its own way. Reed's eyes gleamed. The universe itself is alive, Engineer Willis. Our machines should be extensions of that life, not separate from it. From behind them came a smooth, almost musical voice. Fascinating theory. Completely unsupported by evidence, of course. They turned to see Felix, the new observer from the Stellar Imperium. Like all Varl, he had blue-gray skin and a tall, thin build. His face was painted with simpler patterns than Dorn's, marking his lower rank. Evidence is what we're creating here, Reed replied sharply. Felix made a gesture that translated roughly as polite disbelief. The Varl explored biologically responsive technology millennia ago. We found it unreliable and primitive. Then you explored it wrong, Reed said bluntly. Anna stepped between them. Professor Reed's theories are just one approach we're exploring. We value the Stellar Imperium's input. Of course, Felix nodded, not believing her for a second. I look forward to observing your unique methods. Ambassador Dorn is most interested in your progress. After he glided away, Reed mumbled, I bet he is. Over the next few weeks, the station hummed with activity. Anna split her team into different groups, each working on separate pieces of the massive project. To the surprise of their alien observers, the humans didn't just work in labs. Some teams included artists and musicians who helped to design components that felt right, as Reed put it. "What is the purpose of this?" asked Felix one day, watching as a sculptor shaped a piece of specialized metal. "Intuitive design," Anna explained. "Some relationships between matter and energy can be felt rather than calculated." Felix looked skeptical. "This is not science." "It's human science," Jack said, joining them. "We've always mixed art and engineering. Our greatest scientists were often artists too." At the 1-month mark, they tested the first major component, a field stabilizer that would eventually help hold the void gate open. To everyone's surprise, including Anna's, it worked on the first try, generating a perfect containment field. Word spread quickly through the station. That night, the team celebrated in the common area with music and drinks from a dozen worlds. "One small step," Jack said, raising his glass to Anna. "About 1,000 more to go," she replied, but she was smiling. Across the room, Tom Reed was arguing enthusiastically with the scientists from Trell, their furry arms waving as they debated some complex theory. Other aliens had joined the party too, curious about human celebration rituals. Only Felix and the other Varl observers kept their distance, watching with those unreadable eyes. 2 weeks later, disaster struck. The second major component, a quantum wave guide, failed catastrophically during testing. The explosion was small, but destroyed months of work. "Impossible," Anna whispered, staring at the smoking ruins. The simulations were perfect. Reed examined the damaged pieces. This wasn't a design failure. The materials were compromised. Jack frowned. "Compromised? How?" "The molecular structure is wrong." Reed held up a twisted piece of metal. "This isn't what we specified." "It's similar, but not the same." Anna felt cold despite the lab's warm air. "Sabotage." Jack didn't answer, but his expression hardened. Later that night, he met Anna in her private quarters where they could speak without being overheard. "Security footage shows Felix in the materials lab 3 days ago," Jack said quietly. "No record of why he was there." "You think the Varl are sabotaging us?" Anna asked. "I think someone doesn't want us to succeed," Jack's voice was grim. "The question is, what do we do about it?" Anna thought for a long moment. "We don't confront them. Not yet. Let them think they've set us back months. And meanwhile." A slow smile spread across Anna's face. "We change our approach. Professor Reed has been talking about a completely different way to build the field generator. Something the Varl would never expect." Jack looked uncertain. "Reed's ideas are unusual." "Exactly," Anna's eyes shone with determination. "They're watching for conventional methods. Let's try something they'd never anticipate. Something so crazy it just might work." "Something human?" Jack asked with a small smile. "Something human," Anna replied. Outside the station, the broken remains of the ancient void gate continued their slow dance around the dead star. Soon, if Anna's team succeeded, those fragments would have new purpose, not rebuilt as they were, but transformed into something new, something that had never existed before, something they said no one could build. Anna couldn't sleep. For the 5th night in a row, strange patterns danced in her mind whenever she closed her eyes. She finally gave up, pushed herself out of her small bed, and floated to the workstation in her quarters. "Lights," she called, and the room brightened. Anna pulled up the latest designs for the Void Gate project. After the sabotage 2 months ago, they had switched to Professor Reed's unconventional approach. Progress was slow but steady. Yet something still felt wrong. Anna stared at the designs until her vision blurred. Then, just as she was about to give up, something clicked in her mind. The patterns from her dreams overlaid the schematics. And suddenly she saw it. That's it, she whispered. Her fingers flew across the interface, making changes, connecting systems in ways no one had tried before. That's what we've been missing. When morning came, or what passed for morning on a space station, Anna called an emergency meeting of the core team. Jack arrived first, looking concerned. What's wrong? Another sabotage attempt? No, something better. Anna could barely contain her excitement. I figured it out, Jack. The Void Gate isn't just technology. It's alive. Professor Reed arrived next, his white hair even more wild than usual. When Anna explained her revelation, his eyes widened. Show me, he demanded. Anna displayed her new designs on the main screen. See these connection points? They're not power conduits or data transfers. They're more like nerve endings. The ancient builders didn't build a machine. They grew one. Reed studied the designs, muttering to himself. After several minutes, he looked up with a grin that made him look decades younger. Of course, he said. It's so obvious now. We weren't thinking alien enough. What does this mean for the project? Jack asked. Anna took a deep breath. It means we need to change everything. We've been trying to build a machine, but we need to grow a partner. The new approach stunned the alien observers. When Anna presented her theory to the full station, Felix immediately contacted Ambassador Dorn. Within days, Dorn himself arrived at the station. This is madness, Dorn said when Anna finished explaining. You're suggesting the Void Gate has consciousness. Not human consciousness, Anna clarified. Something different, more like how a plant knows to grow toward light. Plants don't bend space and time, Dorn said coldly. Professor Reed stepped forward. Maybe not on your world, Ambassador. But the universe is stranger than any of us know. Despite Dorn's objections, Anna's team began rebuilding their components using the new approach. They no longer forced the exotic materials into shapes they wanted. Instead, they created conditions where the materials could form themselves. The results were immediate and stunning. Components that had failed repeatedly now functioned perfectly. Structures that had been unstable held firm. Energy flowed more efficiently through systems that seemed to adjust themselves to changing conditions. Word spread quickly through the galaxy. More alien scientists began arriving at the station, not to observe but to help. A group from the water world of Neri brought special materials that responded to thought. Engineers from the gas giant Kalir shared techniques for communicating with non-biological entities. This is not what we expected, said the Trell scientist, watching as a crystal formation grew itself into a perfect signal amplifier. Humans continue to surprise us. Jack smiled. We're good at that. In her private log, Anna recorded, Day 217. The Void Gate components are showing signs of what I can only call preference. They work better when certain people handle them. They respond to music. Professor Reed insists on playing classical Earth compositions in Lab 5, and the crystalline structures there grow more quickly when Mozart is playing. I can't explain it scientifically, but I can't deny the results either. 3 weeks later, they were ready to test the first major section of the new Void Gate design. The test chamber was crowded with humans and aliens, all watching anxiously as Anna initiated the startup sequence. Power at 10%, she called out. Field stabilizers online. The air in the center of the chamber began to shimmer. A small disk of darkness appeared, no larger than a dinner plate. It's working, Jack whispered. Power at 25%, Anna continued. Quantum guide engaging. The disk grew larger, now the size of a small window. Through it, they could see nothing, perfect darkness except for tiny points of light that might have been stars. Power at 50%. The portal expanded again. Now they could definitely see stars on the other side, but in a pattern no one recognized. Where is that? Someone asked. Not where, Professor Reed said quietly. When? We're looking at stars as they were arranged millions of years ago. Anna checked her instruments. The portal is stable, holding at 50% power. For 10 minutes, the portal remained open. Instruments showed it was a genuine connection through spacetime, not just an image. When Anna finally shut it down, the room erupted in cheers and the alien equivalent of applause. Even Dorn looked impressed, though he tried to hide it. A small portal under controlled conditions is still far from a functional void gate, he said. But it's more than anyone else has achieved since the collapse, Jack pointed out. Dorn had no answer to that. That night, as the station celebrated, Anna sat alone in the observation dome, staring at the broken pieces of the original void gate. Those ancient fragments were beginning to make sense to her now. Jack found her there. You should be celebrating, he said, handing her a drink. You're the hero of the hour. Anna took the drink but didn't sip it. We're still so far from finished, Jack. A working portal is one thing. A stable void gate that can transport ships across the galaxy is something else entirely. But for the first time, it actually seems possible. Anna nodded slowly. Yes, and that's what worries me. What do you mean? Ambassador Dorn wasn't angry today. He was scared. Anna turned to face Jack. We're succeeding, Jack. And that's exactly what some people don't want. Jack's expression grew serious. You think they'll try to stop us again? I know they will. And next time, they'll be desperate. As if to confirm her fears, an alert chimed on her communicator. Anna checked it and frowned. What is it? Jack asked. Security alert. Someone accessed the main power controls without authorization. Anna stood up quickly. It's starting already. They hurried from the observation dome, leaving behind the scattered remains of the ancient void gate still orbiting the dead star. Those ancient fragments had once connected the galaxy. Soon, if Anna was right, they would do so again, but in a new way, a human way. If they could stay alive long enough to finish the job. The morning after their breakthrough, Anna and Jack called a station-wide security meeting. All section heads gathered in the main conference room, their faces showing a mix of excitement from yesterday's success and concern about the unauthorized access to the power systems. We've changed all access codes, said Mike, the head of security. He was a former military man with a serious face and eyes that missed nothing. And I've doubled the guards on critical systems. That's not enough, Anna said. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes. She hadn't slept after discovering the security breach. Whoever did this has high-level knowledge of our systems. Jack nodded. We need to consider that we have a serious saboteur on board. Maybe more than one. Professor Reed, looking rumpled as always, spoke up. The timing is not a coincidence. We make our first real progress, and suddenly someone tries to access the power core. Felix, who had insisted on attending as the Stellar Imperium's representative, made a dismissive gesture. Perhaps one of your own scientists was simply running an unauthorized test. Humans are not known for following protocols. The access codes used were diplomatic level, Mike replied flatly. Like the ones issued to observer teams. All eyes turned to Felix, whose blue-gray skin seemed to darken slightly. Are you accusing the Stellar Imperium of sabotage? He asked, his voice dangerously smooth. We're not accusing anyone yet, Jack said quickly. But we're increasing security around all critical systems. After the meeting, Jack pulled Anna aside. We need proof before we make any accusations against Dorn or the Varl. The political consequences could be serious. I know, Anna sighed. But I also know they don't want us to succeed. Work continued on the Void Gate with new urgency. Anna's team had proven their approach worked, but scaling up from a small test portal to a full Void Gate presented enormous challenges. The materials needed to be perfect. The energy flows precisely controlled. 3 days after the security breach, they were ready to test the second major component, the spatial anchor that would keep the gate fixed in space. Without it, a functioning gate might drift, creating a moving hole in spacetime that could tear apart anything in its path. "Power level stable," called out one of the engineers as the test began. "Anchor field forming." Anna watched the readings carefully. Everything looked perfect. The anchor field expanded smoothly, creating an invisible bubble of stabilized spacetime. "Test successful," she announced, allowing herself a small smile. Professor Reed nodded in approval. "Now we have 2 of the 3 main components working. Only the matter-energy converter remains. That was the most difficult piece, the system that would allow solid objects like ships to pass through the gate safely. The ancient builders had somehow solved the problem of converting matter to energy and back again without destroying it. No modern civilization had been able to replicate that feat. Unknown to the rest of the team, Anna had been working on a radical solution. That night, she asked Reed to meet her in her private lab. "I need to show you something," she said, closing the door behind him. "But you can't tell anyone else yet." Reed raised his bushy eyebrows but nodded. Anna activated a small device on her workbench. A tiny field of shimmering energy appeared above it. "Put your hand in," she instructed. Reed hesitated. "What will happen?" "Just trust me." Slowly, Reed extended his hand into the field. His fingers disappeared, but he showed no sign of pain. "I can still feel my fingers," he said, surprised. "But I can't see them." Anna smiled. "Now pull your hand back." Reed did, and his fingers reappeared, completely unchanged. "Remarkable," he whispered. "You've solved the matter-energy problem." "Not completely," Anna admitted. "This is just a small-scale test, and it only works on living tissue so far." Reed looked at her sharply. "Living tissue? You mean?" "Yes. The gate responds differently to living things than to inanimate objects. It's like it recognizes life." Reed paced the small lab, thinking hard. "This changes everything. If the gate itself is semi-living, and it recognizes other living things, then we need to approach the final component as a form of communication, not just technology. And a translation between the two," Anna finished for him. Their excitement was cut short by a station-wide alarm. Red lights flashed, and a computerized voice announced, "Emergency in Section 12. All personnel evacuate immediately." Section 12 was the main power core. Anna and Reed raced through the corridors, joining the flow of crew members heading toward the emergency. When they reached Section 12, they found Jack already there, directing the response team. "What happened?" Anna asked, breathless from running. Jack's face was grim. "Explosion in the coolant system. 2 engineers were inside when it happened." Anna felt cold. "Are they dead?" Jack confirmed quietly. "The blast was contained, but they had no chance." Engineers in protective suits were already inside the damaged section, assessing the damage. One came out and reported to Jack. "It wasn't an accident," he said. "The coolant regulator was tampered with. Someone reprogrammed it to build up pressure until it exploded." Anna felt sick. Sabotage was one thing, but this was murder. 2 people were dead because someone wanted to stop their project. "Do we have security footage?" Jack asked. The engineer shook his head. "The cameras in that section went offline 10 minutes before the explosion. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing." Later that night, Jack, Anna, and Mike, the security chief, reviewed what little evidence they had. "The programming changes to the coolant system required high-level engineering knowledge," Mike said. "And diplomatic access codes were used again." "Felix?" Anna asked. "No, he was in the observation lounge when it happened." Multiple witnesses confirm it. Jack frowned. Then who? Mike pulled up a security image on his tablet. This is from a corridor camera outside Section 12, taken 30 minutes before the explosion. The image showed Ambassador Dorn himself moving quickly down the corridor. He claimed he was just taking a walk, Mike said. But this is the only time he's ever been recorded in that section of the station. Jack's expression hardened. We need to confront him. Not yet, Anna said. Both men looked at her in surprise. We don't have absolute proof, and if we accuse an ambassador directly, the Stellar Imperium could pull all their support from the galactic community. So we just let him get away with murder? Jack asked angrily. No, Anna said. We finished the Void Gate.